I woke up to a miracle today. Triggers stay as I find my way. No judgment to lead astray. In this peaceful state I'll stay.
Welcome to our exploration. We're so glad you're here as we work through the material you've shared with us, really trying to pull out the most essential insights.
And we do love hearing from you. You can always email us. It's ACIM@theworldharmonyproject.org.
That's right. And our TikTok and YouTube handle is @TheWorldHarmonyProject. Or, just leave a comment on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
So today, our focus is on this really foundational insight. It's an idea that completely changes where we place the source of our distress.
It really determines whether we see ourselves as, a victim of what happens to us or as the one in charge of our own experience.
Exactly. So let's just jump right into the text for the lesson.
Lesson 338. I am affected only by my thoughts.
It needs but this, to let salvation come to all the world. For in this single thought is everyone released at last from fear. Now has he learned that no one frightens him, and nothing can endanger him?
He has no enemies, and he is safe from all external things. His thoughts can frighten him, but since these thoughts belong to him alone, he has the power to change them and exchange each fear thought for a happy thought of love.
He crucified himself, yet God has planned that his beloved Son will be redeemed.
Your plan is sure, my Father, only yours. All other plans will fail, and I will have thoughts that will frighten me until I learn that you have given me the only thought that leads me to salvation.
Mine alone will fail and lead me nowhere. But the thought you gave me promises to lead me home, because it holds your promise to your Son.
I am affected only by my thoughts.
Now, if you've ever tried to find peace in what feels like a chaotic world, you know that phrase can hit you in two ways.
It can feel like a profound truth, but it can also feel a little bit like a slap in the face.
A genuine slap in the face, because it takes away your most trusted, your most reliable shield.
That shield is the blame game. It is our absolute favorite defense mechanism.
We are experts at it. We are black belts in pointing the finger outward.
At the news, at the weather for ruining the weekend, at a coworker who sent a snippy email.
We say, with absolute conviction, that thing, right there, that is the cause of my unhappiness.
And if that external thing would only change, my peace would return instantly.
But this lesson says, in no uncertain terms, that the external world is not the cause. It argues you might be feeling upset or joy right now, but the source of that feeling is never external.
Never. It is always internal. And this single idea presents the ultimate paradox of freedom.
It's that moment where freedom meets total responsibility.
And the ego hates that bargain. It immediately wants the old arrangement back.
Because the ego would much rather be a blameless victim, a passive receiver of the world's misfortunes, than be wrong about how wrong the world is.
It loves the certainty of believing, I'm right to be angry because they are the problem.
But the second we realize the cause is internal, a door opens.
The door to real freedom. We're given agency over our own internal state for the simple reason that we're the owners of our thoughts.
And according to the lesson, this isn't some minor tweak to your perspective.
The stakes could not be higher. The text says that in this single thought, everyone is released at last from fear.
Imagine that for a second. The promise is that if nothing external can genuinely frighten you, if nothing can truly endanger you,
then the whole mechanism of fear, the need to defend, to fight, to control, it just falls away, becomes obsolete.
It's a complete reversal of cause and effect.
Yeah.
We discover that the environment doesn't create our inner state.
Our inner state creates our experience of the environment. And that is the mission of this exploration today, to really unpack why this is true and, more importantly, how we can apply it when the world outside is screaming that it's the one in charge.
Right, when everything seems to prove the opposite.
Exactly.
So as soon as we even start to entertain this idea, I am affected only by my thoughts, there's an immediate pushback.
The ego rushes in with what feels like verifiable physical proof to the contrary.
The objection sounds something like, hold on a minute. I absolutely am affected by external things. I'm affected by the fact that I just got a flat tire on the way to a huge meeting.
Or, I am most certainly affected by the fact that my furnace just broke and it's 10 degrees outside.
The ego insists, it demands, that physical events cause suffering. And we need to be very clear here. This lesson is not a form of denial. It is not suggesting that the tire isn't flat or that your house is not, in fact, freezing.
Those are physical facts. They are happening in the world. The critical difference, and this is everything, lies in separating the physical fact from the mental interpretation.
We have to learn to distinguish pain from suffering.
We almost always treat them as the same thing, but they are entirely different phenomena.
So if I step on a nail, for example, the sharp sensation in my foot, that's pain. It's a physical signal.
The suffering is the story I immediately tell myself about it. Why am I so clumsy? I always hurt myself. Now my whole day is ruined.
That's the overlay. The emotional misery comes completely from that thought-based narrative.
And this distinction is the key to understanding this reversal of cause and effect. Let's use an example, maybe getting sick. Let's say you're running a fever, 102 degrees. The fever is a physical, biological fact. The aches, the heat, the chills, those are all physical discomforts. That's the pain.
So where does the suffering come from?
The suffering lives entirely in the mind's interpretation of that physical fact. If your thought is, my temperature is 102, which means I'm going to miss the wedding I've been looking forward to for a year, and this is completely unfair, and my body always lets me down.
That's the story. That's the part that creates the misery.
That interpretation is what touches the mind and generates despair. The biology itself doesn't have an opinion, it's just a state.
So my body is dealing with the physical symptoms, the pain, but my mind is wrestling with this story of injustice.
Which is the suffering. And the suffering is always a judgment. It's the thought, this should not be happening to me.
We can prove this is true just by changing the context.
Let's do that. Imagine you get that same fever. But this time, you have been secretly dreading a high-pressure presentation at work. Or you really want to get out of a family obligation you feel you can't escape.
Suddenly that fever feels like a gift.
It feels like a get-out-of-jail-free card. You think, finally, permission to just rest. You get into bed, you drink tea, you're still physically ill.
But you're not suffering.
Not at all. You interpret the exact same event as a relief, not a deprivation. The pain is there, the physical discomfort is real, but the suffering is completely absent.
Because the story you're telling is different.
Now, take that exact same 102-degree fever and place it 24 hours before you're supposed to get on a plane for your honeymoon.
Catastrophe.
Absolute tragedy. The physical event is identical, but the mind is now screaming about loss, deprivation, unfairness, and ruined plans.
This proves the lesson right away. The biological event, the fever, is neutral.
Completely neutral. It's the thought we attach to it, the narrative of gain or loss, of fairness or injustice that determines the experience of suffering. The effect comes from the mind's thought, not from the body, not from the world.
If we can really accept that, even just for a moment, we start to see how confused we've been about cause and effect our entire lives.
We thought the world was the cause and we were the effect. We're now being asked to consider that it's the other way around.
The lesson goes on to say that the person who truly understands this principle has no enemies, and he is safe from all external things.
Which is a huge statement, especially when you think about inanimate objects. How often do we make an enemy out of something that has no will, no intention at all?
All the time. We give human characteristics hostile intentions to everything that goes wrong.
I was watching a friend of mine try to assemble some furniture a while back, a big bookshelf. He's not exactly a handyman, but he had a lot of ambition.
Ambition and flat-pack furniture are a dangerous combination. It often leads to ignoring the instructions.
Which is precisely what happened. He reversed a major panel and the wood just splintered. His language was so revealing.
He wasn't just mad at the bookshelf.
No, he wasn't saying, I made a mistake. He was saying, I am incompetent. I waste my time. I waste my money. I can't even follow simple directions. I am such a failure.
So the real damage wasn't the splintered piece of wood. You can replace that. The real damage was the emotional self-attack.
Exactly. He was acting as if the wood was actively trying to oppose him. He made the bookshelf his enemy. And if we apply the lesson here, we have to admit the wood had zero power to hurt his feelings. He hurt his own feelings with the story of the incompetent builder.
He generated the attack inside his own mind and then projected it outward onto the object. The physical event, the splintered wood, just served as a trigger for his internal self-judgment.
And that's why the text uses such incredibly strong imagery for this. It says, he crucified himself.
That feels like a very heavy term for a mistake with a bookshelf.
It does. But if you look at the internal process, the analogy is perfect.
Why that specific word, crucified? What's the deeper meaning there in this context?
Because the ego's goal is never just correction, it's always condemnation. The ego never says, you made a mistake, learn from it, and move on.
It says, you are bad, you are guilty.
It targets your core identity, your worth. So when we listen to that voice, we are punishing the self.
And when we accept that judgment, that we are fundamentally worthless because of a functional error.
We are sacrificing our own peace to maintain a false idea of who we are. That daily sacrifice of peace, the self-punishment we engage in every time we judge ourselves or someone else, is a form of self-crucifixion.
It's a betrayal of our own sanity. And we do it over and over again throughout the day, letting a minor event trigger a huge identity-level verdict against ourselves.
The bookshelf was innocent, the event was neutral, and yet my friend was left feeling completely destroyed because he chose to believe the ego's story about his own inherent guilt.
This process of self-attack isn't just for physical projects. It happens constantly in modern life, especially with technology.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the simple, common experience of your Wi-Fi dropping out when you're in the middle of something important, or even just trying to relax and watch a movie.
My mind immediately starts predicting disaster.
This is going to ruin my whole evening, or I'll never get this work finished now.
We're preparing for a battle against a ghost story we just wrote for ourselves. A story about loss and deprivation. The tension, the stress we feel in that moment, it comes from us scaring ourselves.
And this applies to more abstract things, too. Think about financial news or market anxiety.
The stress you feel the moment you hear that headline is not caused by the stock market. It's caused by the story of future deprivation that you generate inside your own head.
The market is just fluctuating. It has no personal intent toward you. That churning in your stomach, the anxiety, is proof that the effect came from the thought, not the external event.
We're contracting against a future threat that may or may not ever happen, all because our thought system insists the world is a dangerous place.
If the mind didn't race ahead, if it just observed the blinking router or the economic data, the physical response would be neutral. It would be practical.
Okay, I'll restart the router. Or, okay, I should review my portfolio. Problem solving.
But our conditioning insists on creating emotional drama first. And the irony is that the bracing, the contraction itself, it actually makes us less capable of solving the practical problem. The anxiety clouds our thinking. Now, as hard as this can be to accept with inanimate objects or abstract systems, it becomes exponentially more difficult when we try to apply it to other people.
This is where the real resistance kicks in. When someone seems to violate a social contract or says something directly to you that's offensive, it feels like a verifiable external attack.
The ego insists, no, they did something objectively wrong. Therefore, my anger is objectively justified.
Let's use a really common public scenario. The rude stranger. You see someone drop something, a glove or a wallet.
You go out of your way, you pick it up, you hand it back to them. You're operating from a place of helpfulness, of kindness.
And they take the item from you, give you a completely blank stare, no thank you, no smile, nothing, and just walk away.
That perceived slate, that absence of acknowledgement, can trigger an immediate reaction inside. But let's pause and apply the lesson here. Let's really break it down. What is the raw external data of that event?
A person performed a physical action, they accepted an object from your hand, and then continued walking. That is the only verifiable thing that happened.
Everything else. The story of disrespect, the feeling of being insulted, the judgment that your effort was negated, the sense of invisibility. All of that was added by you the observer. We imposed all of that meaning onto a neutral physical event.
And we can prove this is true just by choosing a different thought.
What if, in that exact same moment, your immediate thought was, wow, they must be having an awful day. Maybe they just got some terrible news and they're completely lost in their own head.
How would you feel then?
You'd feel compassion, or at the very least, neutrality.
The stranger's behavior did not cause your feeling. Your choice of interpretation, the thought you generated about the meaning of their silence, that is what caused your emotional state.
And this is the moment where the lesson becomes both terrifying and incredibly liberating.
It's terrifying because it means we lose the ability to play the victim.
We can't tell that grievance story anymore. We can't go home and say, you will not believe how rude that person was to me today.
Instead, we have to be honest and say, you won't believe how upset I chose to make myself by inventing an elaborate, punishing story about the intentions of a complete stranger. This even applies to more serious things, right? Like professional conflict or even losing a job.
Absolutely. If you get laid off, the economic event of the layoff is a real physical fact. Your employment status has changed.
But the suffering comes from the thought, I'm worthless, or my career's over, or I knew I wasn't good enough.
That is the ultimate test. The external event, the layoff notice, is a circumstance that requires practical action. You need to find a new job. But the emotional collapse is the ego seizing that opportunity to reinforce its core belief that you are lacking, that you are not enough.
The external event didn't hurt my worth. My own thought about it did.
If we can start to internalize this, that nothing and no one can genuinely hurt us, we can start to disarm ourselves. We can stop walking into difficult situations already braced for an attack.
Let's take a family situation. Many people have a family member who is notoriously critical or who holds very different beliefs.
A very religious aunt who every holiday pulls you aside to tell you she's worried about your soul because of your life choices.
That feels like a direct, targeted judgment. It's intended to be personal. It's hard to see that as a neutral event.
Her words are just sounds based entirely on her own deeply held belief system, her own fears. Her beliefs are her business.
They aren't about you.
Not really. If I refuse to interpret those sounds as a verified attack on my eternal soul, if I can just see them as sounds coming from a place of her own fear, they lose all their power. And the fear is disarmed. The armor drops. If I know those words cannot actually hurt me, I don't need to argue. I don't need to defend myself. I don't need to brace. I'm free to just observe her fear without making it my own.
This concept really reaches its most intense, high-stakes application in our close, intimate relationships.
This is the arena where we are most likely to weaponize our thoughts. It's where we turn the people we love into enemies through this simple, tragic mechanism of projection.
In our intimate relationships, the ego knows exactly which buttons to push because we've handed our partners the blueprints to all our insecurities.
My partner can ask a completely neutral, functional question. Something like, are you wearing that jacket tonight?
Just a question seeking information.
But I don't hear a request for functional information. I immediately hear the internal overlay, the filter.
You filter it through a past fear, a past insecurity.
I hear, you have bad taste, you look sloppy, I'm embarrassed to be seen with you. It activates every old insecurity I have about not being good enough or being judged.
And then you react. But you're not reacting to the person who asked the question.
I'm reacting to the person I heard, the person my ego just invented. I'm defending myself against the inadequate person my own thoughts told me was being addressed.
Yes, I'm wearing this jacket. Why are you always criticizing me? We turn our loved ones into carriers for our own internal guilt, and then we attack them for holding the very judgment that originated in our own minds.
The salvation that this lesson offers in relationships begins with one simple choice. Release the other person from the job of being the source of your pain.
If I can truly know that your words cannot damage my peace, that only my interpretation of them can.
Then I can stop trying to control you. I can relax. I can just be with you.
Because I recognize that my peace is already whole. It's independent of your current mood or communication style.
And that is the demonstration of true inner safety.
Which brings us to the practical challenge. The lesson says we have the power to exchange each fear thought for a happy thought of love. How do we actually do that without it feeling like we're just pretending, like a forced toxic positivity?
This is the critical distinction we have to keep making. It is not denial of the physical fact.
If I have the flu, I still need to rest. If the bookshelf is splintered, I still have to buy a new part.
The exchange happens at the level of purpose and meaning. Denial would be saying, my fever isn't there. The reframe, the exchange, is saying the fever is here, but its presence is offering me a much-needed chance to rest rather than being a sign that the universe is against me.
We shift the assignment of meaning.
In the bookshelf example, denial would be, this splintered wood looks great. The healthy exchange is trading the punishing thought, I am an incompetent failure, for the productive thought.
I made a mistake, and that mistake is just a data point. I'm learning how to do this, and my worth has absolutely nothing to do with how fast I can assemble this thing.
It is all about lowering the emotional stakes. The shift of thought reminds us that we are not constantly on trial for our self-worth. We're just learning, we're growing, we're experiencing.
But what about the really sticky thoughts? The prayer in the lesson even acknowledges this will happen. And I will have thoughts that will frighten me until I learn that you have given me the only thought that leads me to salvation. We are so conditioned to hold on to fear. What do we do when that fear thought just won't let go?
Ask it directly. Is this actually true? Is it empirically verifiable that because that stranger didn't say thank you, it means I am unlovable?
And when you ask it that directly, it can't hold up in the daylight.
It's only powerful when it's operating in the dark logic of the ego, which needs to make you feel guilty or unsafe just to maintain its own existence.
This leads to the concept of ownership, which feels so crucial to the practice. The lesson says his thoughts can frighten him, but since these thoughts belong to him alone, he has the power to change them.
It's a choice between two outcomes: the constant exhaustion of victimhood or the vitality that comes from taking responsibility. And that choice determines the direction of causality in your life.
Which brings us right back to that core idea, the reversal of cause and effect.
If we believe the world is the cause, we're bound, we're trapped. If the weather is the cause of my mood, if another person's praise is the cause of my self-esteem, then I'm a puppet. I have no choice but to be jerked around by all these external strings.
So if my mind is the cause, if my thoughts are what determine my emotional experience,
then the strings are cut, I am unbound. The stranger didn't say thank you, I am still whole. The bookshelf splintered, my inherent worth remains completely untouched.
because you finally realize the source of your safety has been internal all along.
Let's anchor this whole exploration by identifying the positive core of the lesson, the thought we're actually aiming to exchange for.
The prayer asks for guidance, acknowledging that all other plans will fail. It continues, and I will have thoughts that will frighten me until I learn that you have given me the only thought that leads me to salvation.
It's the recognition of our eternal, unchangeable identity.
It's the idea that the separation from love, the original fear thought, never actually happened in reality. It was a mistake.
So when we exchange a fear thought, we're not just replacing it with simple optimism or a positive affirmation. We're replacing the ego's interpretation with the fundamental truth of I am as God created me.
And if that is true, then all these external events we've talked about, the stock market, the splintered bookshelf, the fever, the rude stranger, they can disrupt your schedule.
But they cannot, under any circumstances, touch the eternal self. They cannot touch the real me.
That's the crucial mistake we make every day. We invest our identity in things that are temporary and fragile. I am my competence. I am my reputation. I am my plans.
And when those things inevitably fail or change, we panic because we confuse the temporary effect with the eternal cause.
My value is entirely independent of any temporary outcome.
That recognition is the happy thought of love.
And we have to stress the need for patience here. We are undoing decades, a lifetime, of conditioning that has told us we are victims of the world. You will forget this principle many, many times today.
And that's okay. The forgetting is part of the process.
So for today, Watch the cause and effect in real time.
When the small thing happens, the spilled coffee, the delayed email, the traffic, just watch the specific fear story your mind instantly invents. And then just choose to exchange that fear thought for the truth of who you are.
You are the dreamer of the dream. You have the power to stop the frightening script at any moment and choose a happy dream instead. That choice is your freedom.
You are safe. You are the cause of your own peace. We'll see you back here for the next exploration.